Denise, welcome to our virtual podcast.
Thank you.
And I want to see if you can give us an update on the Nosara Civic Association. There's a lot of stuff going on. Our beaches are currently closed. We're all practicing our self-isolation and our quarantine, however you want to say it, or sometimes both. Semana Santa is upon us right now. There's a lot of stuff going on. Can you fill us in and give us a go on what the Civic Association is up to right now?
Certainly. Well, one of the things we realized during this time was that communication is even more important than ever. And I really want to thank you, Rich, for what you're doing with your podcasts. I listen to them all the time. I think we're all in such uncharted territory that the more information and the more factual information that we get, I think it helps me stay calmer, and hopefully the community stay more informed and calmer too. So to that end, we are now going to be sending out every day on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at 6 p.m. We're going to be sending out on Facebook. I believe it might be on email as well, Instagram, a compilation of anything that the government has reported that might affect our community. Because we realize that many people, especially who are members of the NCA, are not Spanish speakers and don't feel comfortable necessarily navigating the official government websites. So what we're going to do is sort of do a condensed version on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 p.m. We'll have the link to the official government report, and we'll also have bullet points in English describing, what has come down. Just like the other day, we sent out something that talked about the new driving restrictions. So anything that we feel can affect the community or that would be helpful to inform the community on, we want to do that. And we've been able to step up our communications because last year, one of our supporters very generously gave us a donation to actually improve our communications and help hire somebody to help us with it. Because
hey, shout out to them. I don't know if they want to remain anonymous or what. But
I asked them, they said they'd prefer to not have their names mentioned. So big
thank you, whoever you are. We appreciate it because those updates are awesome. That was something I was going to bring up was it's really cool having information flow, especially with a semblance of accuracy. Social media has the tendency to veer whichever way based opinion. And
one of our goals here also was, in terms of that, was to make sure that people look to us as a source for factual information without it going through, rant and rave or other channels where people are kind of putting more of their opinions in. So we are a conduit for a lot of information from the local government, and we always try to pass that on, and we will continue to do that. But we're just stepping it up now to 3 times a week, and we will also send out an email blast or a special announcement if something happens in between that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday time period.
Well, thanks in advance, and thanks for the donations that help make it happen.
Thank you.
Very cool.
And the other thing we're trying to do is we've just sent a letter out to all of our business members, and you hopefully have gotten it too, trying to figure out ways that we can support you, because I know we have a lot of members that are restaurants, and if you're doing something that you want the community to know, or if you want us to support you with gift cards or whatever that is, we're trying to compile all that information, so that we could send it out to the public, because we really have to.
I'm sorry I was laughing at these. That's awesome what you're doing, but the amount of support some of us need is so much.
I know.
And it's really cool what you're doing, so thank you. I didn't mean to belittle the point, but
I understand.
That's
I can't buy a house from you. I'm sorry. So, we are trying to do whatever it is that we can. And we're just all in this together, and we're just going to have to, I think there's strength in that. And there's also some comfort knowing that the whole world's not going to go under. We're just going through a difficult time, and we'll figure out a way. And I have to say that living here in Costa Rica, I am very grateful that I'm here right now. I think the government is doing a very good job of trying to keep everybody informed, of trying to provide financial support for people who are losing their jobs. And they're acting with a lot of compassion, which is one of the reasons I love the culture here so much, because it is a very compassionate culture. So as much as I miss our family back in the States, I am glad that we're here for a while. So I just want to
I hear you. I'm of the same opinion. We have a little podcast about to launch with some attorneys explaining what's going on for employers and employees, and it's very interesting to see people really trying here. It's
yes, and then
hopefully it makes a big difference. We'll see, but people definitely are trying.
I hope so. I think in some ways this has given me a lot of time to reflect on ways in which I can change my priorities in life, perhaps, or do other things. And I think this is a time when we can all spend a little time reflecting on how we live and how we want it to look like in the future.
And I hope they open the beaches soon, because I really do miss surfing. I'm right now I'm spending all my time doing what work I can virtually, but just hitting a punching bag all day long, thinking about the future, losing a bunch of weight doing it. But it's really,
my husband's
it's
going
really, yes, it's really weird not being able to surf. That's a tough one, and I understand
And
why
I
it's
think
closed.
and we're also dealing with Semana Santa. Do we want an influx of people from, you know, from San Jose area where there are many more cases coming out here? You know,
That's
it's,
right.
you know, this is a time where we can't have mass migrations of people coming from the city to out here. You know, right now we have no reported cases of coronavirus. So I think
Knock
till
on wood.
Santa, I think we're going to have to shelter in place a little longer, but that's just my opinion. I don't know. Not that I
Hey, so
like it.
your predictions on that? Do you think it's going to get a little bit stronger lockdown, or do you think it's going to ease up soon?
I think they're going to have to keep this for another few weeks until the curve flattens out here. I mean, from just reading the health department updates, there aren't a large number of cases, but they haven't leveled off yet that I've heard, you know, and started to go down that downward curve. And all the health experts around the world are saying we have to get to that plateau and then see it go down a little before we can ease restrictions. So, you know, I just don't know. I don't believe that's happened in Costa Rica yet, or anywhere else, actually. So I think we're all kind of in a little more lockdown mode. But we'll have to wait for the experts to let us know when. But
Yeah, I hope it doesn't get to that breaking point where people are like, all right, I've got to do something. I need the money. And
yeah,
then the whole thing kind of crumbles. You know what I mean? That's my biggest concern, is that it goes on that it takes it that far, and I hope it doesn't get there.
well, I think everybody's trying to find a balance that works, and you know, and public health is so critical. We have to really make that our first priority, and the economy very, very close second. So I don't know. You know, I'm glad I'm not in charge of this. It's a horrible thing.
Yeah, some
Really.
tough decisions being made right now.
I have no idea either. But anyway, I just want to give you an update. And we are still moving forward with a lot of our projects. So I wanted to talk
So
to you.
fill us in real quick. Give us a quick update on everything. You know,
Sure.
I've talked about the temporary building regulations so much that I don't even really want to bring it up, but I have to.
Well,
Give us an update.
They are enforced now. The
Okay,
regulations have been adopted and they are now being used. So that's no longer in process. It actually has come into effect.
So would you say it's time to turn the page on that, or do you expect resistance to come reopen it and shake it all again?
I think it's time to turn the page on that. I mean, I think it's what we, you know, we've talked about it, we've gone over it, we've had meetings on it, and now they're in place until the plan regulador gets adopted. And in terms of that, I could go right to community planning. It's just that we are very, you know, because they are in place, if people think that they're seeing illegal activity, you can contact the Muni directly and let them know through Josue's office, the Office of the Engineer. On our website, we're going to be putting up in the next day or so how you contact the Muni if you believe that, you know, you see somebody doing something illegal or against the building regulations. We are not enforcers, so sending it to us, we hardly have any staff left. It's much better if you go directly to the Muni, and we will send out information on how you do that in the next day or so. So that
You know what? That's interesting. I'm glad you're doing that. Can you please send that out there so that people stop thinking typing something on their personal social media or even a group page is enforcement? It's not in any way. You need to get to the right people if you want to enforce the rules.
Exactly. So yes, I'll put that down and we'll definitely do it. The other thing is phase 2 of the hydrogeological study is going along now. It's supposed to be done in 6 months. And this is the real nitty gritty that it will give us the data about water percolation into soils, the capacity of the aquifer, the real technical stuff that the plan regulador needs in order to decide in the future which zones may be too fragile for development and which ones can support development. And the flip side of that, there has to be done a new fragility index study has to be done, and that's going to cost about $85,000. And right now, the Muni does not have that money to do it. So even when phase 2 is finished, we're still going to need another companion study, this study called the Index for Environmental Fragility. So we're looking at, how to raise funds for it. We had been talking with trying to find some government funding, but right now with the virus crisis, everything is put on the back burner except what's absolutely essential. And that, of course, is not considered to be absolutely essential. But we have been moving ahead. The new administration in the municipality seems very supportive of the Plan Regulador, we're happy to say. They have some new people in place that are taking all of this quite seriously. So we're kind of hopefully optimistic that when things settle down with the virus, we'll be able to, move forward with the Plan Regulador.
Can I jump in and see if I can synopsize that, a word I think I made up? Just, I'd like to have credit for that if people start using it. You basically need 85 Gs to pay for a study that you guys don't have the money to pay for. Or no, not you guys. The Nicoya doesn't have the money to pay for. So we need to find $85,000 to pay for that.
And they could do it through either donating it to us and we turn it over to the Muni. You could go directly to the Muni. If somebody actually wanted to fund the study themselves because they think that this is critical, they could do that. We would help them to understand how to do that because the studies have to be done by approved entities, not just anybody could do a study and then give it to the government for their approval. So there are a variety of ways for how we could move forward. And if people are interested in supporting that, they can get in touch with us and we will certainly work with them to help them do that.
So my follow-up, fully sarcastic point is it's a heck of a time to be raising money for stuff, isn't it?
Well, we're really not trying very actively to do that at this moment in time. But what it is a good time for, honestly, and I did this when I was a consultant for many years, is that a crisis is a wonderful time to do your planning. And people would always, why are we planning? There are no resources. This is the worst time. It's the best time because eventually this crisis will pass. And you want to be at the front of the line with a plan to be able to be, able to get more funding from other sources when those taps open up again. So we are, working and moving forward with our plans. And to that, I want to talk about some of the things we're doing with like the beaches. The management plan has finally been at Satana. We're waiting. They have to give us their final answer on whether they approve it by June and I know that Francisco and Jamie from the Astenel Wildlife Refuge work nonstop with Satana, trying to make sure that every objection or criticism they had was answered so that we finally could get this part of the plan, approved. So we're hoping that by June, we will have an answer to that. And then
okay. So that's mainly up to Satana, it sounds like.
And if that does get approved, then there still will be a few more environmental regulations and some hurdles that we'll have to go through before Menai can start acting on the management plan. But we are still working on that.
What are the biggest changes that will come? Pardon to interrupt, but I wanted to catch you while you were on that point. What are the biggest changes that will come if that does get approved?
Well, I think we had talked about it many times in the past, but there's not going to be any new development allowed here, in Guiones. And for people that, like in Astenal, for people that already have homes in there, they're going to have a certain process that they go through to apply for a permit through Menai, to be able to get permission to make their improvements. But they're not going to allow, new building on the beaches here anyway. So that's like one of the main things of the management plan. And it's just, I think we can sort of publish what it is again, because there's like 7 or 8 different areas, which I don't want to go into all the detail.
No, I'm just asking the biggest effect, assuming that gets approved by Satana. I was just asking what the biggest hit is immediately.
Would be like what kinds of development could happen on the beach and the process for doing that. And then people's claims will be looked at, to see whether I know that There were some questionable titles on the beach, whether the property was actually titled or not. And when all of that gets approved, then SANAC and MNI can look through all of that and start wading through all those applications and, deciding what's legal and what's not legal. So it just gives some certainty. And with that, there is what we've talked about, this multi-actor platform where all the stakeholders that have businesses or some kind of interest in the beach, like the surf schools, the hotels, there's this multi-actor platform that's been in process. And what they're working on now is they're working on coming up with designs for new ranchos to be put on the beach. Because after the plan is approved, what they want to do is they want to put like consistent looking ranchos along the beach. And they're not going to take anything down until they have a new rancho to put up. So the idea is so that people know that when you see this rancho, anybody can use it. It's not somebody's personal rancho. It's not a hotel's rancho. Because in the past, there have been a lot of mixed messages put out there.
Yeah.
But the truth is the beach is a public property and anybody can use it. So they're working with them on that. And they're also starting to look at, there are a lot of paths that go down through the refuge to the beach. Mm-hmm. Many of them have been put in fairly recently. So they're going to be looking at that issue too and trying to determine which are the best paths, which ones they should keep, which ones they shouldn't keep. So those
I
are
hope they don't close all the paths. That would be unfortunate.
I don't know. I doubt that they will. I think what's happened though is that there have been some people that have really taken advantage of the fact that there has been no enforcement, and as soon as they build something near the beach, they immediately, cut a path right to the beach. So there's a lot of drone footage of what's been there, what people use, how it's been used. So hopefully they'll come up with some criteria. And the multi-actor platform is working with Jamie and the refuge to come up with which paths should be there and which paths should be there. So those are all things that will happen once the management plan finally gets approved and all the other hurdles.
And you're saying June on that. So what else is out there? What else do you want to update us with?
That's the first part about it. The other thing is about our parklands. We're still working on finishing off the fencing. We have developed some new partnerships that are really going to help us. We've developed a partnership with the University of Costa Rica, and some graduate students are going to have a thesis, and they're going to come up with a management plan for all of the parklands for us. And that will help us then develop policies that are based on some kind of data or science. And we have to decide whether we want to actively manage the parklands, we want to passively manage the parklands, what kind of policies we want to have in place. We've been having, unfortunately, some issues with people when we try to put up our fence posts. Not all, but there are a few people that keep taking them down. And if we were any other landowner, you wouldn't think of taking somebody's posts down, but somehow there's a small minority of people that think it's okay to take our posts down. So we're just trying to have some policies that are sane and that allow us to keep on protecting the parkland. And
what if they take down the post and they take care of the area and they're not like trying to claim it? What if they...
It doesn't matter.
I'm trying to find the middle ground here, because people ask me about that all the time. They're like, "Hey, I've had this forever, and now all of a sudden this is here." Like, well, I don't know what to tell them.
Yeah, what we're trying to do is to be sensitive to the fact if there's a house that somebody has there, so we don't put up barbed wire. We just put up 3 strands of wire so that animals can keep passing through. And if you really object to seeing the strands of wire or an extra fence post or 2, you could plant a shrub next to it. You could put some plantings. We're not obscuring your view. We're not trying to say you can't look into the parklands. We're protecting them, and you're going to have that view forever. But we can't make exceptions. We've had people say, "I'm a good steward," but then 2 doors down, there are people dumping trash into our parklands. And the only way we can deal with all the neighbors we have is to have some kind of consistent policy. But we're willing to work with people for how they look and not put barbed wire up and, to make it as unobtrusive as possible. But we're another landowner, just like you're a landowner, and people put up things that mark where your property lines are. And it leads to a lot less disputes in the future. And that's really what we're trying to do. And
that makes sense.
We've talked to people one-on-one. We really try very hard to work with people. It's just very frustrating when and for our poor workers who were there and have to, they don't know what to say to people, but they put the fence posts in and then they come back a week later and someone's ripped them out. And, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate we'll have to spend a lot of time on this. We're hoping that people we can come to some kind of common understanding about why we're doing it. And we're not doing that to block your view. A fence post with 3 strands of wires not blocking your view from the parklands that you've always had. It's really not changing that, but it's changing the fact that maybe you have a post when you didn't have one before. But I don't know. I could live with that. I have posts all around me on my property, and I don't get the chance to look at parklands forever. I get the chance to look at more construction sites. I wish I had a piece of property that bordered on the parklands, actually.
Yeah, I was going to say, you might not, the construction sounds might go away for a while here pretty soon. Which for me, back with being so heavily involved in the Security Council for so long, sure, that's the first thing that my mind went to was like, oh God, we might be another 2009, 10, 11. I don't know if you remember how the crime picked up heavier. It got more intense. It was like more intrusion.
Absolutely.
When people have supplies and no place to work and no source of income, that's when that bad stuff happens. So I don't want that to happen.
I don't either. And I think that's why the government is trying to, formulate some financial plans to make sure people have some money so they can get through this. I wish them a lot of luck in it. Another partnership we have is with Vanessa Beasy and her new, the Wildlife Association, in trying to track the habits of wildlife through our parklands. And we have asked people, and I think we sent something out on Friday about this, if you want something to do for yourself and with your kids when you're at home, you can download iNaturalist. It's an app that you can use to track, to see the wildlife you have even on your property or when you're taking a small walk somewhere. And Francisco and Vanessa are actually working on some directions for people to train them on and develop activities for how people could use iNaturalist. So that
I saw a deer the other day in the L section, actually right on the NCA trail with the post.
I haven't seen a deer in a lot of years here. It's really nice to know that. That's great. And the other thing about our trails, if you've noticed, we put it out there. We know the beaches are closed, and we're not trying to circumvent the government's wishes for people to try to stay at home as much as possible. But our trails are open. If you feel like you're going crazy and for your mental health you need to be out, we just ask, please respect the social distance on the trails. A lot of people have said to me, we're so happy they're there. It's saving our sanity right now. And we're happy they're there too. And we're also happy that we have new signs up, and we thank our businesses. Thank you
you're welcome.
for actually supporting those signs, because it's making it so much easier now for people to know where they are and where the trail is going, because there was a lot of confusion.
No thanks necessary for those of us who supported it. That was an easy decision, because I've always known it. Like back I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago, whenever trails were closed and people couldn't use them, they didn't respect the beach as much. And then when they were able to be inside of it and touch it, become part of it, that's when interest went up, donations went up, and people started taking better care of it. Then Barragones came in, and just, thank you, what I'm saying.
And we're also working, we have a trails committee. We've been meeting with Zoom also, trying to move forward. And we're really looking at some ways that we can have a year-round trail that would take you from Bodie Tree all the way to past what used to be Five Corners anyway.
Yeah, what is that now? Like some weird K?
I don't know. It's a corner and a half or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Maybe even be able to get into town. So we are looking at ways that we can do that. Because
cool.
we want to move forward with that. So we're doing that well. And
hey, did you hear any updates like where Surf Simply had the idea of a little bit of a lifted path? Has that made any traction that you're aware of up in the higher levels of government? Because that was awesome, so that wildlife can still move. Yeah, it's just great. I've seen that done in some places, and it's fantastic. I hope we could do that here.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with that, so I don't want to answer it, but it is great.
Okay, no worries.
I think we could probably move forward with that. If there's some way that we could help, Surf Simply with that, I'm sure that we'll be able to work together on that too, because that is a very good idea. And we had one more partnership. I was just trying to find that here with, it was at Universidad Latina. The School of Architecture is now helping us design a design for the dump site and for the public park that we're trying to put in there. So we
cool.
We are still moving forward with that, and we're very.
I was wondering about that.
We're very grateful.
That's a great thing.
Yeah, and we're very grateful for the assistance that we're getting from all the universities, because it would cost so much money to try to, have these designs done privately. We don't have it. I mean, we're still scrambling to figure out how we can have enough money to really close the dump once and for all, because we're going to have to fence it. We're going to have to put security there for a while. And
I'm sorry for laughing. Whenever you say the dump, or whenever you say regulation or fence post, I can't help but laugh.
I know, it's like, oh boy. But, there's a process for how we have to do these things. And we are really excited that one day we will have a really great public park there, and we will have mitigated whatever environmental damage was caused by having that dump for so many years. So it'd be one of the coolest things ever. Yeah, it's taken a long time, but we have a lot of people who are excited about it and who have expressed interest in trying to help us with it. So, when this virus thing passes, we'll be going a little even more full tilt than we are now. But I just want to.
I was going to make a money joke there, but somebody's got to pay for it. But we'll figure that out later.
Yeah, but we are still trying. We're trying to move the projects forward that we've been working on for a long time, and do it in a way that we can all stay safe. And we're using a lot of Zoom. It's a wonderful.
Hopefully the internet stays up so we can do stuff like that. Yeah. And this.
And
all right. What else is out there, Ms. Nice, while we're talking that we should get out while we're on this platform?
Oh, the other thing, is what the food bank is doing, because it's really, really important. The food bank
Tell us about it.
The food bank's raised $12,000 already. And if people who want to donate, you can donate it to the food bank. You could donate through Amigos de Costa Rica in the United States, so that you can get, if you're U.S.
501c3.
501c3 deduction. And our food bank is working now with all the local development associations and with the emergency committee to figure out how they can, give out food to everybody who needs it during this time. So they are, working on that now. Also, from the flood relief committee that was put into effect a few years ago, there is still money remaining there, and the committee is looking at being able to support and supplement more food for the community if that becomes necessary. So it's really
okay.
I'm so grateful we live in this community where there's so many caring people and there's such a great level of organization. So people are trying to, get ahead of this problem, but trying to make sure that nobody goes hungry in Nosara.
Would you say the food bank would be probably the best or one of the best donations right about now?
Yeah, I think the food bank, or again, do it through Amigos de Costa Rica, or if you want to give it to us to donate, whatever you want to do. But I mean, I think food security it's obviously the most important issue for people, especially people who've, been laid off from their jobs. How are you going to feed your family? How are you going to eat? It's critical. And I know the government is helping with, trying to get money into people's pockets, but making sure that people here don't go hungry, I think, is an incredible priority.
Yeah, I agree with you. And shout out to the food bank. Maybe we should talk about that more in a different episode. Yeah. But it sounds like it's going pretty good. That's good news.
And what we're trying to do as the NCA too is just help coordinate with whatever we can, for whatever priorities the community needs, and use whatever resources we have to help with that. And that's all we can do right now.
Well, thank you for that. And again, hey, those updates, I think information really is that's like my resolution for 2020 is, and that's also like from where this podcast came from, and just doing this is just information. I'm so tired of rumors. I'm so tired of all the speculation. I'm just over it. And that's how my website, my podcast came to be. So I appreciate what you guys are doing right now. By sending out those updates. Those are fantastic. Some people don't even have a standard TV to watch them.
Right. Yeah, and I feel
it's just really helpful.
It's all about communication. And if anybody has any suggestions for us, you can always email us at info@nca.cr. Or if there's a piece of information that you feel the community needs to know, we'll be happy to get it out as well. You know, we're trying to gather it from as many sources as possible, but we appreciate any legitimate information that we get, then we in turn send it out to the community too.
That's good. Times like this, information keeps people calm.
I think I was joking with you the other day, and I said, what are we doing this time? And I said, when I was a consultant, we had this little thing called the Johari box. It was a box that was cut into 4 quadrants, and one axis was influence, and one axis was control. And one thing you always taught when you went in to work with a client is, if your project is in a box where you have almost no control and no influence, do not put your energy there. Put your energy where you feel you have some influence and some control. So take that in mind when we're trying to look at what's happening in the world. We can't control that. We can control our local situation by staying safe, staying in, and keeping our social distance, and washing our hands a lot. We can do that.
It's weird because my priorities 2 weeks ago on my responsibility list was just, it wasn't even this high. It was like this high. And now, now it's just like, Rich, stay home. And for anyone who knows me, staying home is like sitting still. That's not my strong suit. So I'm doing it though.
Not for most of us. Well, thank you. And thank you again, Rich, for all you're doing. It's so critical now. Really.
Oh, good.
I look forward to your podcasts.
Me too. Dean says so too.
Is that Dean in the background?
Yeah, Dean says so too. He goes, he loves it.
Hey, all right, I'll give him a wave next time I see him, and thanks for listening.
Talking to you this way, it looks like it's podcast karaoke, like, right? Carpool karaoke.
Oh, God, I hope the beach is open soon.
Well, you can walk on our trail, but just keep your distance, okay?
That's true. Okay, well, I'll see you on the trails, and thanks for your time. Shout out to NCA, everything that you guys are doing. Thanks for the information, and talk to you soon.
Stay safe. Bye-bye.